The cheapest people are the richest. Fact. Absolute fact. And they're also, this is not a generalization. The generalization, some billionaires aren't so cheap. But for the ones that are, they also tend to be incredibly selfish and self absorbed. And God, it's terrible.
This is at the crux of your and my disagreements, Ben, because I think people's mostly their proclivity is a self-centered, self-interest, profit-driven mentality, which is why every now and then the government needs to say, pay up.
This is an interesting topic, Josh. Okay, you ready for this one? Because I think this you will agree with.
Hold on. 5-point harness, buckling in Six Flags style. Let's go.
I find that it's very, very rare that the person who made the money is like that. I only find these selfish billionaires personally in the children of said billionaires. I don't know what it is, but I find it in them. I also find on the flip side that the ones who are the most lavish, overspend, really gaudy are also the children. How about, Josh, we tax, I'm open to this, taxing second generation wealth. If you earned $1 billion in your lifetime, Josh, just you had a great life, you crushed it. You did it. To me, I'd like to give you the benefit of the doubt that you rose from nothing and are a good person. That said, if you were gifted $1 billion, $2 billion, $10 billion, and just sitting there untaxed and you did nothing for it, I could see a light tax.
But that's a big thing too. That's a whole, it's a Hebrew word. I don't know a good English word for it. Balagan with the
craziness.
with the tax code and heirs of fortunes and step up points. It's a, you've heard this phrasing. It's a step up, and the way that you inherit money and ways in which of sheltering it to keep it from having to pay the tax. So
having estates, having trusts, having
you
don't have any money.
Capital gains.
You borrow money from something fictitious. And you don't have to pay tax on it. That's why they say the worst thing you can do is die with a home in your name.
So
if you die with a home in your name, you just screw your children. So if you think you're going to die, throw your home in a trust. That way your children could be the benefactors of your home. We should have a tax. Have we thought about that before? What's that finance girl, the one that now lives in Dubai, who tells you how to spend your money? We should have her on the podcast.
Oh, Miss Dow Jones?
Yes, Miss Dow Jones.
She lives in Dubai?
Yeah, she does. She moved. 0% income tax, baby. She could have also gotten that in Florida.
Yeah. Same in the Amazon, by the way. What the fuck? Oh my God. The property tax is nothing. Well, the malaria is expensive. I moved to Dubai. Good luck.
That's funny. There's no tax if you live in the woods.
Yeah. People are nuts.
It's nuts. Oh, man. She's not coming on now.
Oh, she will, I'm sure. I've heard her on pod. She's very smart.
Yeah.
I think I remember hearing this like famous boxer, someone who was like really famous, making hundreds of $1 million, saying, at this point, I'm good. Now I'm working on generational wealth. And it didn't make me, it made me squirrely because I've only almost always 8 out of 9 out of 10 seen kids of really wealthy people at a complete disadvantage because 100%. Inheriting all that wealth completely screws them up. And I think, as I heard Ezra Klein, I think, say this once about like what it meant, and maybe it doesn't mean this anymore, but it's what I want to believe as a Democrat is like the best version of what it means to be a Democrat. And maybe that's been lost, which is, all parties and systems go through waves of, rediscovering who they are, redefining who they are. But at best, it's that you are born lucky. And I really feel that. I'm born lucky. And you could look at me and go, well, you didn't have a dad. You were born into like immense financial insecurity, a single mother who had to really struggle and work hard. And, you're metabolically challenged. Like, I certainly had it much better than a lot of people, but not a typical middle-class 2-parent lifestyle. But I know I was born lucky because I had a mom who loved me and believed in me and like protected me. And that the ability in which to strive and to pick myself up by my bootstraps is to an extent a privilege, that actually some people are born without the ability in which to like get on their grind. I'll tell you a crazy story if you want to hear it in a second. So
I do.
that's what I think. That's kind of how I look at things, is that because I was born lucky, it's like my cover charge for life to try to help those who were born less lucky.
Totally. I do also think, and again, you have to be able to, and not everybody can do this on their own, but being born into an unfortunate situation, if you can find a way to make it out of that situation, everything in life is better.
Sure.
Versus if you're born into immense privilege, it is a downhill slope your whole life, like your entire life. I'm not trying to say like we should feel bad for billionaire kids, but I have seen it. These kids are very unhappy. Like some of the most unhappy people I've ever seen, where nothing is ever good enough. Money really does not buy happiness. It buys security. There, of course, there's a bar. If you have no money, it's terrible. If you have too much money, I'm telling you, it's terrible. It's poison.
Mm-hmm.
And then the rest of us that sit in the middle are lucky. But these two extremes, I'm telling you, obviously it may seem like one is significantly worse than the other. The the other, I bet you, has a higher suicide rate. I bet you that there is a higher suicide rate in the one that was born privileged, had too much of everything, never appreciated anything, versus the one who was born into poverty. God,
Yeah,
we've gotten deep.
I love it. I like when we
Yeah.
get deep. I'll tell you
Yeah.
the story really quick about when I was training for the great single season Turner and Hooch. Um, this guy, the great guy named Scott, was, because I was playing a U.S. Marshal, so they got me a consultant to like learn about being a U.S. Marshal, the oldest federal law enforcement agency in the world, started by George Washington in 1789, or federal law enforcement in the country. And I asked him, I said, he's telling me about all these things, that all these different times where he had to go and get bad guys. And I was like, do you ever feel sad? Like, were there ever times where you felt bad? Because he's telling me about all these bad guys, right? And he goes, oh, yeah. He goes, I'll never forget that I went and had to pick up, he said it was in the 90s. He said, and there was a kid, 18 years old kid, who was trafficking marijuana. And in the 90s, this was a major offense, unfortunately. And it was pounds of weed, not like insane amounts, but enough where this kid was going to get in proper trouble and go away for years. And we picked him up because we had to. And we arrested him and we're taking him to the car. And he looks at me and goes, can I bring my Hooked on Phonics tapes to jail? And he's like, and I went home and I cried that night. He said that kid came from the worst area with the worst people around him. He never stood a chance. And he's like, and I felt for that kid. And so that's kind of how I feel. And like, there are just, certain people, certain places in the world where it's really hard to just like pull yourself up by your bootstraps and, get things going. And so
Totally.
I think it's incumbent on us to help as many people like that as possible.